In the first-century Roman Empire, slavery was a demographic reality rather than a fringe institution. Historians estimate that over half of the empire's population lived in some form of legal bondage. This structure was supported by the philosophy of Aristotle, who argued for a concept called natural slavery. He taught that certain people were born inherently inferior, meant to be owned and used as the property of others. This created a society defined by I-it relationships. Enslaved individuals were viewed as living tools rather than humans, prioritized solely for their utility to the household. In this rigid hierarchy, your status at birth dictated your human worth. There were few legal paths to escape this categorization, making your social standing virtually inescapable. The story begins with a man named Onesimus. He was a slave who had reportedly stolen from his wealthy master, Philemon, and fled to Rome, hoping to disappear into the city's massive population. Under Roman law, the consequences for a runaway are severe. If captured, Onesimus faces the legal right of his master to order scourging, mutilation, or crucifixion. While in Rome, however, Onesimus encounters the Apostle Paul, who is under house arrest. During their time together, Onesimus converts to Christianity. Paul is now caught between Roman law and his own convictions. He decides that the right path is to send Onesimus back to Colossae to face his master, despite the risks involved. This decision creates a massive tension. Paul is choosing to send a man back into a legal system that allows for his torture and execution. Paul sends Onesimus back with a personal letter addressed to Philemon, a carefully structured appeal designed to resolve a volatile conflict between two men who now share the same faith. Although Paul holds the religious authority to command Philemon to forgive the debt, he explicitly declines to use that power. Paul's logic is that a change in a relationship only carries weight if the relinquishment of power is voluntary. He wants Philemon to choose mercy, not simply obey an order. To bridge the gap, Paul uses the Greek accounting term, logo, or imputation. In a banking context, this means to charge or credit a specific amount to the account of another person. Paul writes, "If he has wronged you or owes you anything, charge that to my account." Later theologians like Martin Luther saw this demonstrating the gospel. Paul takes the position of Christ, Philemon the offended party, and Onesimus the person whose debt is covered. Paul chooses to embody the theology he teaches. By paying a debt he did not owe, he provides the judicial basis for Onesimus to be received without punishment. The letter's ultimate request goes beyond simple debt repayment. Paul asks Philemon to receive Onesimus no longer as a slave, but as a beloved brother. In the ancient Mediterranean, the sibling bond was the highest level of social loyalty. By using this term, Paul is demanding that the legal relationship of owner and property be replaced by the relational tie of kinship. This is the core of what Paul calls a koinonoic witness. It is a community bond that claims to overwrite earthly status and social classes with a new shared identity. Paul is asking Philemon to do the unthinkable, to ignore the empire's social hierarchy inside his own home and treat his legal property as his absolute equal. This request created a sharp friction. Inside the house church, a master and slave are called to eat as brothers. Outside, the Roman Empire continues to view one as a person and the other an object. While Paul does not directly call for the political abolition of Roman law, his letter introduces a logic that is incompatible with the concept of human ownership. He argues that because they share a common creator and a common faith, their social differences have been rendered secondary. This specific argument became a primary tool for later abolitionists. On this 1838 coin, the inscription, "Am I not a woman and a sister?" direct mirrors Paul's demand for siblinghood as the basis for freedom. While this text was used for centuries to maintain social order, its inner logic provided a persistent moral challenge to the systems that the Roman world took for granted. In 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. echoed this appeal from a jail cell in Birmingham. Addressing the divided American church, he called for a countercultural way of living. King's demand was nearly identical to Paul's. He insisted on integration, not just as a policy, but because, in his words, the Negro is your brother. These ancient tensions remain visible today in our own political and social tribalism, where we are often encouraged to see those outside our groups as other or less than. The message of Philemon suggests that true reconciliation depends on a difficult choice: the willingness of those with societal power to voluntarily lay it down for the sake of a deeper, boundary-breaking kinship.